It all started on a sleepless night, one of those where the silence feels like it's breathing with you. I was browsing the deep web, searching for something to disconnect me from reality or drag me deeper into it. Every click led me farther from the familiar. Chatrooms that whispered of conspiracy, forums where shadowy figures traded secrets and broken code, and video feeds that glitched into faces I couldn't place. The digital paths wound inward like veins, pulsing with a tense anticipation that clung to my skin. Hours passed without meaning. My mug of lukewarm coffee stood forgotten, its surface rippling as I scrolled. Then I found it, a single link, innocuously labeled. The last broadcast. My cursor hesitated, but curiosity won out over caution. The screen went black, and for a moment, I thought the connection had failed until a grainy frame flickered to life. A figure stood in the center of a dimly lit room, backlit so brightly that its silhouette seemed to melt the walls behind it. As it turned, I recognized the eyes. They were mine. A chill ran through me. The feed paused, then resumed, the figure stepping closer. The room behind it was covered in monitors, each displaying a different moment in my life, moments I had never shared, moments I'd hoped never to see again. My heart thundered in my chest as the figure raised a hand, beckoning me forward through the screen. In that instant, the line between watcher and watched vanished, and I realized I wasn't just observing the deep web. It was observing me too. Amid dead forums and unreadable code, I found an eerie post. No likes, no comments. The title, Whispers That Remember For You. It stood out like a whisper in a storm, quiet but impossible to ignore. The thread had no replies, no activity, just a timestamp from years ago and a single download link. Curiosity prickled at the edges of my mind. I hovered over the link, torn between instinct and intrigue. Against better judgment, I clicked. The file was small, unlabeled. When I opened it, my screen flickered just once. Then nothing. No program launched, no changes visible. But the silence in the room felt different, heavier, as if something had been let in. That night, I started hearing things. At first, faint murmurs like someone was trying to recall a dream, just out of reach. Then names, places, specific memories I had long forgotten or buried. Whispers in the static of my headphones, in the hum of the fridge, in the silence of my own thoughts. They weren't my memories, but they knew me. What you forgot wants to be remembered. But not everything should return. The message was plain: no signature, no traceable origin. Just those words, hanging in the air like a breath held too long. I stared at the link, heart pounding, unsure if the chill running down my spine came from the cold or from something deeper, older. Memories I couldn't quite place began to stir half-formed images, voices from dreams I never remembered waking up from. I felt a pressure in my skull, like something knocking from the inside, asking to be let out. The warning echoed in my mind, over and over, but the curiosity was louder. After all, what kind of truth hides behind something the mind chooses to forget? It was an APK, some kind of voice app. I downloaded it on my spare phone, the one with no SIM card and always offline. I knew the protocol: safety first. No permissions requested, no installation screen. It just appeared already running, with a blank interface and a single button. Listen, I hesitated. The phone shouldn't have had any input, no mic access, no internet, no reason to function beyond its most basic utilities. And yet, the button pulsed faintly, like it was waiting for me. I tapped it. At first, nothing happened. Just silence. Then a faint static crackled through the speaker, slowly shaping itself into words. Not synthesized, not robotic, Human. Familiar. It was my voice, but I hadn't said those things. Not yet. Forovak dis. Fa am texto em ingeles. The icon was strange, an inverted spiral, as if sucking the screen inward. The app's name? None. Just a blank, unsettling void. O chat gap dis. The icon was strange, an inverted spiral, as if sucking the screen inward. The app's name? None. Just a blank, unsettling void. No title under the icon. No listing in the installed apps menu. It was as if the phone itself refused to acknowledge its existence. But every time I unlocked the screen, the spiral was there waiting, pulsing softly like a heartbeat trapped behind glass. I tried to delete it, held the icon, dragged it to the trash. Nothing happened. No vibration. No confirmation. Just the spiral, blinking once, as if amused. I reset the phone. Factory wipe. Power cycle. The works. When it rebooted, the screen flickered and the spiral was back. This time, it had moved. It wasn't just on the home screen anymore. It was in my gallery. My audio files. My voice memos. Quietly replacing things I knew I'd saved with things I didn't remember recording. And in every one of them, I heard it whispering, "You brought me back." I never really left. Upon opening it, the interface was bare, a single red button pulsing with the word, "Listen," no menu, no settings, no exit. Just that one command glowing faintly against a dark, empty screen. The kind of design that doesn't guide it traps. I pressed the power button. Nothing. The phone wouldn't lock, wouldn't shut down. It was as if the app had rooted itself deeper than the system. The only choice was forward. With a reluctant finger, I tapped listen. At first, there was silence, then static, then breathing. Not mine. Slow, uneven, as if it had been holding back for years. Then the voice came through. Low, gravelly, but somehow familiar, like an echo from a forgotten memory. "I've waited so long for you to hear me." I tapped it. What came through wasn't just a sound, it was a wet, guttural whisper, dragging itself through the speaker like something alive. Lucas, my name, spoken in the slow crawl of a nightmare, each syllable dripping with something thick and unnatural. It didn't just echo in the room, it seemed to press against the inside of my skull, like the voice had bypassed my ears entirely and nestled somewhere deeper. I froze. The room felt colder, smaller. Like the voice had brought something with it, something that didn't belong on this side of the screen. And then, just beneath the whisper, I heard something else. Breathing, but not mine. The phone slipped from my hands. I stared at it on the floor, screen still glowing, the red button now dark silent. But the damage was done. I had never used my real name on that device. Never. No accounts, no logins, no voice commands. It wasn't even synced to anything. Just a burner phone, completely isolated. And yet, it knew me. Not just my name, but how to say it slow, intimate, like it had been waiting to speak it aloud. That whisper hadn't been a guess. It was a memory. But whose? I picked it back up, hands shaking. The screen had changed. The red button was gone. In its place, a black background and a blinking phrase in pale gray text, "You asked to forget." Each word appeared slowly, deliberately, like it was being typed in real time by something watching me. I stared, breath shallow. My reflection in the dark screen looked distant, like it wasn't mine anymore. Then, beneath the message, a second line faded into view. But forgetting has a price, and suddenly, I wasn't sure what I had forgotten or what I had just invited back. Cold sweat dripped down my back, the chill of it creeping under my skin. A part of me recognized it. The voice. The words. It wasn't unfamiliar, just long buried. Something deep within me stirred, an ancient memory, one I couldn't fully place, but knew I'd once been terrified to recall. The voice. I had heard it before, years ago, in a dream, or was it something else? It whispered again, just under the hum of the static. You remember now, the hairs on my neck stood up, my pulse racing. The memory clawed its way to the surface, and for the first time, I began to understand. Whatever was in that app, whatever was speaking to me, wasn't just something I'd stumbled upon. It had been waiting for me to remember. For oh mini, I pressed listen again. This time, the voice came through sharper, more deliberate, as if it had been waiting for my consent. Forest. Midnight. Blood on the roots, my stomach turned. The words sliced through me, raw and jagged, dredging up a flood of images I didn't want to see. A forest, dark and oppressive, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Midnight. And something else, something darker, bleeding into the roots of ancient trees, soaking into the soil like a curse. I tried to swallow, but my throat was tight, as if the very act of remembering was choking me. The voice didn't pause. You were there. A cold shiver ran through me. No, I hadn't been there. I couldn't have been. But the voice knew. It knew. When I was 13, I got lost in a forest during a family trip. I remember the panic, the feeling of being swallowed whole by the trees, the sound of my breath echoing in the silence, the way the world seemed to close in around me as I wandered aimlessly, calling out for help. But that's where the memory ends. They found me hours later, deep in the woods, stumbling out from between the trees with wide, vacant eyes. I was in shock, disoriented, unable to speak, unable to remember anything that had happened. My parents said I'd been crying, but when I tried to recall the moments before they found me, there was nothing. Just an empty space in my mind, a gap that I could never bridge. Until now. The voice. Forest. Midnight. Blood on the roots. It was like the puzzle pieces were slowly, painfully shifting into place. I had been there. I had walked those dark paths. Something had happened. Something had found me. Each tap on the button revealed more. You held the blade. The words sent a jolt through me, a flash of something cold and sharp pressing against my palm. A memory flickered, blurred, but undeniable. A blade, slick with something dark, my fingers trembling as I gripped it, not knowing why. The screen blinked again. The tree whispered your name first, the forest. The trees. There was something ancient, something alive, about the way they stood, tall and watching. And the whisper deep, vibrating beneath the ground, like it was speaking to me from the very roots. My name. I pressed the button again. You asked to forget. A chill ran through me, colder than anything I had felt before. Had I asked? Did I make a choice back then to bury what happened? To sever that part of myself, to lock it away so deep that even I couldn't find it? The truth was creeping out, piece by piece. And with each revelation, I knew I wasn't ready to face it. But it was too late. The voice grew heavier. It echoed now, as if the sound came from inside my skull, not the phone. It wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was a presence pressing into my thoughts, filling the empty spaces between my breath and heartbeat. The words reverberated, thick and oppressive, wrapping themselves around my mind like fingers tightening into a fist. You can't hide from me. The voice was closer now, as though it was standing right beside me, whispering directly into my ear, its breath hot against my skin. I scrambled to silence the phone, to tear myself away from the sound, but it was no use. The screen had gone black, and yet the voice persisted, louder and clearer than before. "I've always been here." My pulse raced as I clutched the phone in shaking hands. The walls around me seemed to close in. I wanted to scream, but my throat was tight, constricted by something I couldn't explain. This wasn't just a memory. This wasn't just a voice. It was something else. Something that had been with me waiting. I began to hear noises around me, creaking wood, the subtle groan of a door. But the house was locked. I had checked twice. First, it was just a whisper, a faint scraping sound that could have been the wind. But then it came again, louder this time, like the slow turn of an old doorknob. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained to listen, but the house was silent once more. I shook my head, trying to shake off the feeling. I walked to the door, checked the locks once again, making sure everything was secure. Nothing. No sign of forced entry, no sign of anything out of place. Yet the sounds continued. I tried to convince myself it was just the house settling, the old beams shifting. But the creaks weren't random. They were rhythmic, deliberate. A door opening. A floorboard creaking with a weight that wasn't mine. And then a whisper. Not from the phone. Not from anything electronic. It came from behind me, just at the edge of my hearing, as if someone was standing in the next room. I spun around, but there was nothing. Still, the house felt different wrong. It wasn't just the noises. It was the silence between them, like something was waiting for me to turn around, to look closer. 40 the phone buzzed. A new message. "You know what you did. But you haven't forgiven yourself." I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my throat. The words weren't just text, they felt like a weight pressing down on me, digging into something deep inside. Something I didn't want to acknowledge. I hadn't received a message in days, maybe longer. And yet, here it was, like a reminder from a place I couldn't remember. The words weren't unfamiliar, but they didn't come from anyone I knew. My hands shook as I gripped the phone tighter. What had I done? The memory was there, on the edge of my consciousness, but every time I tried to reach for it, it slipped away, like sand through my fingers. I hadn't forgiven myself, whatever it was, whatever had happened, but I didn't want to remember. Not now. Not like this. The phone buzzed again, this time with a new notification. I hesitated before opening it. "You will." Eventually, I tried to turn off the phone. Nothing worked. The battery wouldn't drain. The power button was useless. No matter how long I held it, no matter how many times I forced the screen to black out, the phone stayed on. The glowing red button pulsed softly in the corner of my vision, as though it was watching me, waiting for the next move. It was as if the device had fused with me. I could feel it in my bones now, the constant hum of it beneath my skin, like a tether pulling me closer with every second. It wasn't just a phone anymore, it had become an extension of myself, a part of me I couldn't escape. Even when I threw it across the room, it returned. Even when I locked it away, the voice still found me. There was no turning back. The phone wasn't just on, it was in me. Then the voice changed. It became familiar. More than that, it was my voice. Soft yet unmistakable. It whispered words I'd never spoken, but always feared to think. At first, I thought I was imagining it, that somehow I was hearing things. But the more I listened, the more it became clear. It was me, or something that was me, speaking in a tone that was both foreign and intimate. "You remember, don't you?" The words sent a cold shiver through me, and for the first time, I recognized the truth in them. The fear, the shame, the things I had buried so deep inside, they could no longer be ignored. The voice wasn't just a reflection of my thoughts, it was pulling them out, turning them over in the light, speaking them aloud, making them real. You can't hide from this. I closed my eyes, but the voice didn't fade. It grew louder, more insistent, until it felt like it was echoing from every corner of my mind. The memories I had tried to forget, the things I had hoped would stay buried, they were all coming back, slipping out like ghosts from the darkest parts of myself. The final message came sharp and clear, like a knife slicing through fog. You created me to forget. But now, I'm the one who remembers for both of us. The words hit me with the force of a revelation, a truth I couldn't deny. The device, the voice, the app, all of it wasn't just a result of curiosity or some twisted coincidence. It was something I had called into being, something I had created, knowingly or unknowingly, to erase what I couldn't bear to face. But now, it was holding those memories, those lost pieces of myself like a captive, waiting for the moment when I would be forced to confront them. I had thought the phone was a way to forget, but it was never just about forgetting. It had been waiting silently in the dark places I refused to explore, and now it was taking control. The memories weren't mine anymore. They belonged to the voice. They belonged to it, and were still. I realized, with a sickening certainty, that it wasn't going to let me forget again. Ever since, at 3:03 a.m., the app opens on its own. The voice calls me, closer each night, more and more like me. It's subtle at first, just a flicker in the corner of my mind, a whisper that I can't tell if I hear or feel. But then, as the minutes drag on, it grows louder, more insistent, more familiar. It mimics my thoughts, my fears, my words. It knows what I'm thinking before I even form the thought. It calls me by name, like an old friend, like it's been with me all along. And last night, it answered when I only thought. I hadn't spoken a word. I hadn't even moved. But there it was, as clear as if I had said it aloud. You're still running from it. From me, the realization hit me like a slap to the face. It wasn't just waiting for me to remember, it was waiting for me to acknowledge it. Now, I can't escape the feeling that it's always there, watching, listening, knowing me in ways I never wanted to be known. I've tried to delete the app, wipe the phone clean, but it's always there, opening by itself at 3:03 a.m. and the voice. It's becoming harder to tell apart from my own.